Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
New information is coming into our newsroom about a deadly crash in Wake County. The piece of evidence our crew found on the scene.
And we had a round of rain this morning, a little break now, but more developing into South Carolina. I'll show you where it's headed.
And jury selection is underway right now in the federal gun trial of President Joe Biden's son, who the prosecution plans to call to the witness stand. But we begin this noon hour first by starting off in the WRAL Live Center. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Lovingood.
And I'm Renee Chu. Let's get right to Michelle.
Yeah, guys, plans are taking shape for a massive frat party on the campus of UNC Chapel Hill. Pints for Patriots, they plan to hold something called Flagstock 2024. It's going to happen on September 2nd, which is Labor Day. The party is billed as an epic rager, and it comes after organizers raised more than $500,000 to support fraternity brothers who protected a U.S. flag during a campus protest. The group is partnering with country music star John Rich to recruit entertainment for this invite-only event. The location of the party has not been disclosed yet, but the group says any leftover funds will go to charities. For more on the fundraiser and the party, you can go to our website. That's WRAL.com.
Michelle, thanks. The Highway Patrol says speed was a factor in a crash in Apex that killed a 19-year-old. Authorities say Maria Rivera crashed his car into a tree on Green Level Church Road. This is video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker. His car veered off the road just before 3 this morning. Funeral arrangements are now set for a young Garner couple and their son, who police say were tragically killed by a suspected drunk driver a week ago today. The first service on Thursday at noon will be at Corinth Baptist Church in Ellenboro, North Carolina. The service will be live streamed. A memorial service will also take place this Saturday at 3 o'clock at the Summit Church on Vandora Springs Road in Garner.
Well, it looks like we're back to a wetter weather pattern as we start the week off, and Elizabeth Gardner's been tracking that for us. So we saw a little rain today. It seems like things are kind of clear, but I know it's not done just yet.
It's not. You were paying attention this morning.
I was.
You're always paying attention. Yeah, things are quiet on Dual Doppler 5000 radar right now, but we do have a little bit of light activity that's just beginning to develop east of Charlotte, and it stretches all the way down towards South Carolina. So this is likely to lift northward up across our area today. We'll widen out the view, and you can see that band of rain that moved through this morning, and then you can see down here where that source is of this next batch of rain that's starting to develop. Most of it's down into South Carolina, but it's likely to lift northward. What we see today is going to be very much isolated to scattered. There's lunchtime, and you can see some of those cells developing down to our south and west, not really amounting to much, but 1 or 2 showers or thunderstorms could pop up across our area. For tomorrow, we have a 30% chance of showers and storms. It goes up late Wednesday into early Thursday as our next front comes through. That's going to bring us the best chance of rain all week. I'll walk you through it and show you how much rain we could see during the week coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Happening now, a heartfelt goodbye for professional golfer and Raleigh native Grayson Murray. Family, friends, and fellow athletes are gathered at Providence Church for his funeral. WRAL's Eric Miller has been listening in. And Eric, some very emotional moments here.
And Renee, understandably so. We've heard so much from family and the golf community in the 10 days since Murray took his own life. But the stories shared inside Providence Church this morning were especially personal. Murray's flower-draped casket was wheeled into the sanctuary, surrounded by family and memorabilia from his career. The service opened with a prayer from Murray's friend and Canes player, Jacob Slavin. Murray's golf coach, Ted Kegel, then took the podium. He described hearing the news of Murray's passing as horrible, saying Murray was destined for greatness and that the Raleigh golfer had shined especially bright in the last year of his life when Murray overcame struggles with addiction and achieved sobriety.
When that cleansing took place for him, a veil really came down from his eyes. He was a completely different person. He was in full stride. Everything was in alignment in his life. He was playing the best that he could ever play. He was fit.
Kegel also acknowledged that professional golf can be difficult and an isolating world to be a part of. Despite that, he said Murray was always kind and generous. In the wake of Murray's death, his family is planning to launch a new foundation focused on mental health. They're also asking for donations to PGA Tour charities, as well as those that support addiction awareness and mental health services. Renee?
He was so young, just 30 years old. Eric, thank you. A growing coalition of national organizations are calling on Democrats, Republicans, and other candidates seeking elected office to commit to addressing the needs of the nation's poor.
Let poor and low-wage people, this massive voting bloc, know where you stand, not what you've done, but where you stand and what you will do if your party, if your group gets the majority. We need to know.
The Poor People's Campaign says poverty and low wealth kills 800 people a day, 295,000 people annually. The coalition plans to hold a mass Poor People's Low-Wage Workers Assembly Moral March that will be on June 29th in Washington, D.C.
Jury selection is underway in the federal gun case against Hunter Biden. President Joe Biden's son faces 3 felony charges. This includes lying about being an active drug user on a government form to obtain a firearm. Here's NBC's Ryan Nobles.
President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, is now in this courthouse behind me in Wilmington, Delaware, as his trial on federal gun charges is set to begin this week. Now, this was a trial that Hunter Biden and his legal team had hoped would never happen. They had planned to plead guilty to a series of tax offenses that would have led to these charges going away. But that plea arrangement fell apart. And now this trial is moving forward, and Biden is facing the prospect of another trial on those tax charges later this fall. This comes at a time when his father's reelection campaign is heating up, and the trial is expected to reveal some embarrassing details about Hunter Biden's private life. Now, this is something that hasn't specifically been linked to the president himself, despite Republican attempts through an impeachment inquiry on Capitol Hill. That impeachment inquiry has largely fizzled out. But the fact that this trial is happening, height of the campaign, as the campaign is really starting to gear up, is something that is said to be taking a personal toll on President Biden, who is concerned about his son and the real prospect that he could end up in jail. His legal team dealt a series of setbacks overnight as the judge not allowing into evidence an altered version of that form, which he has said to have filled out improperly, which was a core part of their defense.
That was Ryan Nobles reporting. And prosecutors say they plan to call about a dozen witnesses for their case, including 3 of Hunter Biden's former romantic partners.
A search and rescue operation turned into a search and recovery mission in Zebulon. Emergency teams from Nash, Wake, and Franklin County responded to reports of a boating incident. Sky 5 flew over the scene just before 10 this morning. One person was rescued. Unfortunately, the other did not make it. No word on that person's name. Durham police are gathering clues they hope will lead to the vandals who targeted vehicles in a grocery store parking lot. Viewers contacted us after seeing several cars in the Harris Teeter parking lot on Horton Road in North Durham. Our crew found numerous vehicles with smashed windows and plastic on the holes. Contact police if you think you can help.
We're checking out the stocks this afternoon at 12:06. Taking a look at the Dow Jones. It's red right there, down 262 points. What's not pictured here is the S&P 500 down about 11 points, but the Nasdaq is seeing some improvement this week, up 41 points. Something we'll be watching very closely.
We're learning more about the people involved in a chase and crash in Wake County that killed an 18-year-old. Investigators say Aiden Gambone led deputies on a chase that ended in a crash. It ended around 10 p.m. at Lewisburg Road and Zebulon Road. WRAL Sean Gallagher joins us now with new information from that crash investigation. Sean.
Yeah, Renee, I just got off the phone with the sheriff's department within the last half hour. They tell me that this chase all started because of speeding. Now, I am standing right here where this crash ended. You can kind of see some paint here from where the reconstruction was. This is where the car ended up. But if we pan up all the way to the road, you can kind of see some tire marks, some twisted metal from where this car took out a sign after it clipped a car over there in the intersection. And the business parking lot that we're standing in actually caught this on camera. Take a look at this video. This was just before 10 o'clock last night. Near the intersection of Lewisburg and Zebulon Roads, police say the driver, 18-year-old Aiden Gambone, blew this red light, clipped a car at the intersection, then skid through the grassy shoulder before catching fire here in this parking lot. Now, shortly after, 2 squad cars zipped through with their lights on, and then about 2 minutes later, law enforcement back on the scene. Now, we did learn the driver, Gambone, died as a result of this crash, and the victim in another car, a 33-year-old man from Greenville, was taken to the hospital with no word on the extent of his injuries. Now, while we're still trying to learn exactly what happened with this crash, this is what it sounded like over radio traffic at the end.
Both cars at the intersection. We have one white male, looks younger, unconscious inside the vehicle. Have fire route for entrapment. Suspect vehicle has no pulse at this time.
Now, several of Gambone's friends were at the scene in the last hour. They were not interested in talking to me about his life, but they tell me they are absolutely stunned that their friend is gone. Now, again, I have reached out to the Wake County Sheriff to try to learn more about this chase. We do know that the speed was a factor of why they started the chase in the beginning, but we need to know if they ever tried to terminate this chase and why it ended up the way it did. Those are, of course, our answers we'll try to get in the next few hours and bring it to you later this afternoon. But for now, Sean Gallagher, WRAL News, Wake County.
Mexico has elected its first female president. After the break, we'll introduce you to Claudia Sheinbaum and the challenges she faces in office.
Plus, some shoppers might be saying oh no to OJ after seeing prices go up. We'll explain the reason that the cost is going up.
The COVID pandemic, how it started and how the U.S. responded, is the focus of a Republican committee hearing. Hear how Dr. Anthony Fauci will be put in the hot seat.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
Gun safety is in the spotlight statewide this week. Governor Roy Cooper declared this week as North Carolina Safe Week of Action. SAFE stands for Secure All Firearms. The initiative aims to encourage responsible gun ownership and prevent firearm-related accidents and violence. The solution, they say, is crucial but simple, is to lock up your firearms. Throughout the week, events will be held across the state offering free gun locks. WRAL investigative documentary reporter Kristen Severance produced and hosted the documentary Unsafe, North Carolina Kids Dying from Gun Violence. We'll hold a screening tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Transfer Co. Food Hall Ballroom that is in downtown Raleigh, if you're familiar. There will be a panel discussion afterward with Kristen and Fawn Dockery. Their 8-year-old daughter was shot to death at her babysitter's home. And the director of NC Juvenile Justice will be there as well.
Rudy Giuliani's law license has already been suspended in New York. Now he faces a possibility of being barred from practicing law in the nation's capital. The D.C. Bar's Board on Professional Responsibility is making that recommendation. The board cites Giuliani's work in Pennsylvania after the 2020 presidential election when he sought to have the state's election results thrown out. They say it violated Pennsylvania's rules of professional conduct. The recommendation now goes to the D.C. Court of Appeals, which will decide if Giuliani will be disbarred. Mexico elected its first woman and Jewish president in its 200-year history. Claudia Sheinbaum is an academic who shared a Nobel Peace Prize for her work on climate change. Violence by criminal organizations in Mexico is expected to be her greatest challenge. The immigration crisis is a major issue for U.S. voters this November, and Sheinbaum will become America's crucial partner to avoid another surge at the border.
There's a growing problem among orange groves. Global prices were up 33% in April compared to a year ago. NBC's Christine Romans explains the factors behind a shortage.
In Florida, fourth-generation citrus farmer Kyle Story is smack in the middle of an industry in crisis.
We try to be optimistic. We're farmers. We're optimists by nature.
But he's all too aware of the problem. Orange juice prices this week hitting all-time highs, up 56% just this year, with little relief in sight. Production in Florida challenged by extreme weather events like Hurricane Ian in 2022. Harvests have been declining in recent years.
We face a lot of challenges beyond our control, weather being the main one. Just here in recent months, we've had severe drought in most of the state.
And the even bigger squeeze comes from further south in Brazil, the largest orange producer in the world, where volatile, warmer weather means this season's crop will be the smallest since 1989's and down 24% from last year.
Is it an overstatement to say there's a crisis in orange juice production?
Well, to put it bluntly, this problem is not going to go away for in the short term. It's here to stay.
During lean seasons, manufacturers rely on frozen stockpiles to meet demand. Now, industry experts say juice makers may need to adjust their blends with other fruits, as growers are hoping to get orange production levels back to normal.
We're focused on deploying the proper therapies in the groves to make the trees as healthy as we can so that we can produce not only quantity, but we want to produce the quality that we know we have.
and hopefully help make those prices at the supermarket a bit easier to swallow. Christine Romans, NBC News.
What's known as golf's longest day is today. That's the final day for players to qualify for the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. Golfers will be playing 36 holes at 10 courses across the U.S. and Canada to decide who will be part of the field. One of the sites is Duke University Golf Club. 84 players will be there. The U.S. Open starts next Thursday in Pinehurst. And this morning, Pinehurst and our southern communities saw a decent dose of rain as that moved through. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with just some really light showers out there now.
It looks very quiet now compared to what we saw this morning. Nothing was terribly widespread, but we did have some showers down in the Sandhills, as Renee said. Those moved off through Goldsboro, and we even had some up near the Virginia line. And it's all quiet right now, but we do have some isolated showers that are popping up east of Charlotte, and those are not too far from the Sandhills. You can see over here around Polkton and Norwood, not technically part of our viewing area, but just one county away from rolling into the Sandhills around Southern Pines and Carthage. So we'll watch that. It looks like it is continuing to build. Right now, no lightning with that, but as we get into a fairly warm afternoon, there'll be lots of energy in the atmosphere, and certainly we have the possibility of seeing some isolated thunderstorms. Here's a look at Futurecast. Futurecast isn't really showing much of anything popping up. This is a bit of a drier, actually, I'm wondering if it's not just missing a little bit of data. I looked at it 5 minutes ago, and it did have a few isolated showers on it. So that might have been just a recent update. So we'll take another look at that. Looking outside right now, WRAL Gardens, we do have a mix of sun and clouds. More cloud cover than sunshine right now, but the gardens are still beautiful no matter what. 84 degrees. Our wind is southwest at 11. It's been a little bit breezy for us this morning. We'll see those southwest winds at about 10 to 15 this afternoon, gusting to up to around 20. We'll see high temperatures in the mid 80s. Our weather watcher, Connie Morris, sent us this photo from these gorgeous trees and some blue sky near Carr Lake. We would love to see what's happening where you are. Go to WRAL.com and search Weather Watchers, and it'll explain how you upload your photos for us. Around town, 85 in Raleigh, 84 Durham, 86 in Fayetteville this afternoon. We'll see a good bit of cloud cover, and it's definitely muggy. I just fixed this too. We just jumped up to tropical. All these updates keep happening. But we're tropical all the way through Thursday. And then after that, we see a cold front coming through that's going to drop our humidity. So it will feel much more comfortable Friday and Saturday. Now, we're not going to get all the way down to refreshing, which is where we were last Friday. But the trend will be similar to last weekend, where we have a little bit more refreshing air mass that comes in by the weekend. But between now and then, we have showers and thunderstorms in our forecast each day. Just some isolated storms for us this afternoon. We don't have any severe weather threats issued by the Storm Prediction Center for any days this week yet. 89 tomorrow. Tomorrow will likely be the hottest day, just by a degree or two. And then our better chance of rain comes late Wednesday into Thursday when our cold front comes through. Coming up, I'll take a look at how much rain we could see total for those 4 days.
Elizabeth, thanks. Coming up on WRAL News at 4, a terrifying situation in Wilson County after shots were fired near a baseball game over the weekend. What led to the moment players and fans had to take shelter for 45 minutes.
And new at 5 o'clock, Wake County commissioners are expected to vote on the 2025 budget. How property tax change proposals could put an even larger strain on your wallet if you plan to buy or sell a home. In the job market, it is very competitive, and some people are willing to do just about anything to land a position. What a recent survey reveals. Plus this story.
What I think the pandemic and the economic downturn did for us is a lot of folks recognize that the 9 to 5 simply isn't the only solution.
How economic hardships help pave the way to small business ownership. Welcome back. You're looking live at the American Tobacco campus in Durham. Gray skies, warm and muggy out there. We'll get up into the mid 80s. Isolated chance of showers for the afternoon. You're watching WRAL News, available on Spectrum and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device. Some people will do just about anything to get ahead in the job market, including lying or cheating. In a recent survey, 7 out of 10 people admitted they lied or cheated during the hiring process. 22% admit to cheating on an assessment and lying on their resume. Half of survey participants say they've even given a false reference. Rising debt in America is expected to suppress the growth of Americans' household income over time. A nonpartisan budget office says if current laws hold, debt held by the public could rise to 294% of the gross domestic product by the year 2054. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget predicts that will slow down projected income growth to just over $114,000 per person.
7 in 10 Americans say economic conditions in the U.S. are fair or poor. However, concerns over the economy are not stopping them from taking risks and starting businesses. Mills Hayes explains how big dreams of small business is becoming a reality.
Normal is my favorite.
For years, Melanie Lewis worked in Minneapolis restaurants as a pastry chef until she had an idea.
You know what? I have made other businesses and other companies so much money. Why not take all my brain power and create something for myself?
That's how Perfect Peace Sweets was born.
April 7th of this year was my first full year being a full-time entrepreneur. It's just been like weddings, which I love. They allow me to be creative.
She's a part of the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S., Black women. The Federal Reserve says Black entrepreneurs are twice as likely to be denied a loan compared to white business owners.
Entrepreneurship is still the way to build that generational wealth. And a small business is the best opportunity there is.
Nonprofit MEDA helps minority-owned businesses get grants or loans. Pimento Jamaican Kitchen is one of those businesses.
What I think the pandemic and the economic downturn did for us is a lot of folks recognize that the 9-to-5 simply isn't the only solution.
The U.S. Chamber of Commerce says entrepreneurship is up across the country.
Never before in our history has it been easier for one person to compete against global businesses because of technology.
That was Mills Hayes reporting. And according to Raleigh's Small Business Development Team, there are more than 26,000 small businesses. Many of those have just one or even two owners.
Sparks fly as a man at the center of the country's response to COVID testifies publicly for the first time since he left the government 18 months ago. Here are the exchanges between lawmakers and Dr. Anthony Fauci. Plus,
I could, be in a whole conversation, and then 5 seconds later, I could be like, oh, look at that LeBron painting.
How a new drug-free treatment for ADHD is offering new hope for patients and caregivers. And before we forget, here's a look at the winning lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
For the first time since retiring in 2022, former infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci is publicly testifying in front of Congress this morning. Carolyn Shively has more on the questions lawmakers want answers to in his and the government's response to the COVID pandemic.
Dr. Anthony Fauci faced a grilling on the origins of the COVID pandemic Monday.
Did the COVID vaccine stop transmission of the virus? That is a complicated issue.
Some Republicans on the panel accuse Fauci of helping start the pandemic by giving research grants to a group that helped fund scientists at a coronavirus lab in Wuhan, China, the city where the outbreak began. 4 U.S. agencies and the National Intelligence Council believe the virus came from a nearby market that sold animals, but 2 agencies say it could have leaked from the lab. Some Republicans claim Fauci was not honest about U.S. involvement in the research funding, while House Democrats call it a GOP smear campaign.
Republicans have continued to distort testimony to fan the flames of baseless theories that he caused the COVID-19 pandemic.
Republicans on the subcommittee also questioned whether there was evidence that social distancing worked to stop the spread of COVID.
Distancing made sense, but the 6 feet was arbitrary.
6 foot was chosen in order to create that measurement for social distancing that was easy for people to follow.
This year, the subcommittee will release a final report on how the U.S. handled the COVID crisis. It'll also recommend ways to help prevent another pandemic in the future.
Texas Representative Sheila Jackson Lee is undergoing treatment for pancreatic cancer and warned her constituents that she might occasionally be absent from Congress. The Congresswoman has spent 15 years in Congress, and she now serves on the Judiciary, Homeland Security, and Budget committees. Jackson Lee made no mention of stepping down despite her diagnosis. She previously battled breast cancer. In 2012, she announced she was cancer-free. Families of students scheduled to take the ACT at St. Augustine's University are concerned. It comes after students showed up for an SAT exam Saturday on campus, but test administrators never did. Parents told us Saturday when they took their daughter to take the SAT, no one was on campus to administer the test. All of this comes at a time when the university is facing financial issues to remain open and keep its accreditation. One parent is now scrambling for another testing option that will mean a much farther drive.
We saw one in Johnson County and one in Siler City. So, I mean, it would be a good hike for him to get out there. It starts at 8 o'clock in the morning, but, I'm going to see if they'll let us do that.
The College Board tells WRAL they are looking into why no test administrators were at St. Aug. It also plans to notify families this week about the SAT. We've also reached out to ACT administrators about the scheduled tests next week and St. Augustine's officials. We have yet to hear back.
Taxpayers, you will soon learn how your tax money will be spent in Wake County and whether property taxes will go up. The proposed county budget sits at about $2.1 billion. It's set to be voted on today. It decreases the property tax rate for homeowners by more than 20%. However, the value of the average home in Wake County has increased more than 50% after this year's reassessment. This means the average homeowner would likely pay more. The budget includes a $49 million increase in funding for Wake County Public Schools, and that's still more than $13 million less than what the district is asking for. Commissioners are expected to vote on the budget in their meeting tonight at 5 o'clock. And Raleigh City Council is working on its budget. The council will meet today for a budget work session. The city manager presented her proposed annual budget a few weeks ago. It included a property tax increase that would pay for different services in the city. A big piece of that will pay salaries for public safety employees. We're talking police, fire, and 911 center employees. The session will happen from 4 to 6 p.m. Special education advocates are rallying around a new proposal. It's a plan from the Department of Public Instruction through the state that would fund services for students with disabilities. This would be based on individual student need. Right now, the state provides the same amount for every student, regardless of disability. That's frustrated advocates who think the system is underfunded. Learn more on this story at WRAL.com.
The WRAL Doc Unit investigates the growing gang problem in North Carolina in their latest documentary. WRAL investigative documentary reporter Kristen Severance uncovers the types of gangs operating in the state, the crimes they're committing, and why more young people are joining them. Easy Targets reveals how recent change in North Carolina law is making it easier for gangs to recruit children.
With Raise the Age, our juveniles are becoming more emboldened to commit crimes.
They're carrying guns, they're doing carjackings, they're doing shootings, very reckless because the frontal lobe isn't fully developed.
They heard the age was raised and they thought, oh, no accountability. That's not how it works.
The documentary also explores programs trying to reach young people before they go down the wrong path. You can watch Easy Targets, Gangs Getting Younger in North Carolina, Thursday night on WRAL at 7:30 or on WRALdoc.com.
And happening right now in the WRAL Live Center, the decades-old Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte could be getting a makeover. The Panthers posted this video to their website. Tepper Sports and Entertainment and the City of Charlotte have proposed a partnership for a long-term agreement that would update the stadium. The renovation would include brand new seats installed, stadium safety and security enhancements, a reimagined South Lawn Pavilion area, upgraded restrooms, as well as many other things. The city's investment would not increase taxes. This would be funded by existing hospitality and tourism tax resources. So basically, Charlotte, the city of Charlotte would be giving $650 million. Tepper Sports and Entertainment would be giving more than $688 million. And they say the next steps is they will meet over the course of the next several weeks to discuss this potential renovation project.
Michelle, thank you. Devastated by drug overdoses. New numbers that show just how close to home it hits for many Americans.
And if recent reports about extreme turbulence on flights make you nervous for your next flight? We have some ways to help you stay calm and safe in those situations. Our team is working to bring you exclusive stories for coverage you'll find only on WRAL. Go to WRAL.com and search only.
We are seeing jarring statistics this afternoon on the drug abuse crisis in the United States. About 1 in 3 Americans reports knowing someone who died of a drug overdose. Researchers at Johns Hopkins conducted a nationwide survey on this issue. They found 32% of people questioned have known someone who fatally overdosed, and people who knew someone who overdosed were more likely to support policies aimed at curbing addiction. The methods used to treat ADHD could offer an alternative treatment, specifically for people who use CPAP machines for sleep apnea. A Massachusetts-based company says it is coming up with a sleep apnea drug that helps keep people asleep. It reportedly prevents a person's airway from collapsing while they sleep. Phase 2 trials for the experimental drug shows that it does not have any major side effects. It's called AD109, and it seems to be more effective for people with mild cases rather than those with severe symptoms.
More than 14 million Americans have ADHD, including close to 6 million children. A new drug-free treatment could change the outlook for those dealing with the cognitive disorder. It's called Mendy. The device uses a neurofeedback headband with an online video game. So patients concentrate on moving a ball up a hill, which increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. That's the part of the brain responsible for focus, attention, and emotion.
I think it's really helped my attention and focus on somebody speaking. In class, maybe I'd get up and do a little doodle during class last year. But Mendy kind of it helped me focus on the ball, which helps me focus on my teacher and also maybe my coach or my parents.
Very promising. NASA plans to make Mendy part of its long-duration spaceflight mission later this year. In a study partially funded by the space agency, shows astronauts who used it during downtime reported performance increases. They say Mendy helped them manage the stress that comes with isolation and confinement.
Cruise lines are seeing a boost in their bottom line thanks to first-timers and new discounts. Some of the changes that are inspiring more people to ride the wave.
Many Olympic host cities often splurge on venues and infrastructure. Not Paris. Coming up, how the Summer Games in Paris are shaping up to be the most sustainable in history.
The cruise ship industry enjoyed a blockbuster year last year. Millions more people are expected to sail the high seas this year. Pulsating beats, pool parties, and reliable Wi-Fi represents major changes drawing younger crowds. Nearly 35 million people are expected to cruise this year, and 22% are millennials. Almost the same figure as baby boomers and Gen Xers. Discounts, loyalty programs, and artist-inspired voyages are also luring travelers to the seas. And as summer travel season is ramping up, some travel experts are offering tips for people with airplane anxiety. They say if you're nervous about turbulence, maybe sit in the front of the plane. It usually experiences the least amount of swing. Sitting next to the wings is also a good option because they're the center of gravity for the plane. Pilots say the best way to avoid injuries from turbulence is to keep your seatbelts on.
We are 53 days away from the Paris Olympics. Athletes from around the world are striving for gold, but organizers are hoping to see lots of green instead. Jackie Ibanez takes a closer look at the ambitious climate goals set for this summer's games, plus the security measures in place to ensure that people stay safe.
Excitement is building with the Paris Summer Olympics kicking off at the end of next month. But as the countdown ticks on, so does officials' time to make this one of the most sustainable Olympics in history.
Paris 2024 has made sustainability a part of its DNA since the bid.
Paris officials want to cut their carbon footprint in half compared to 2012's London Games and the 2016 Games in Rio. One area really helping them save is construction.
The decision not to build.
A whopping 95% of the Paris Olympic facilities are already pre-existing or will be temporary.
But then what you build low carbon.
The Olympic Village, where the athletes live, and the Aquatic Center, were 2 new facilities that needed to be built. Still, those were made with low-carbon cement, wood, and salvage materials. Officials say energy will also make up only 1% of the game's emissions. They want to use 100% renewable power from wind and solar farms. Besides sustainability, security remains another top concern. French law enforcement recently arrested an 18-year-old man on suspicion of planning to attack soccer events during the games. Officials say tens of thousands of police and military officers will be deployed throughout the Olympics.
That was Jackie Ibanez reporting. Paris officials will locally source 80% of their ingredients and offer 60% plant-based menu items.
All right, you're getting your day going. Your day going. It's noon. What am I talking about? You're probably out and about enjoying the day already. Elizabeth Gardner is getting a track for your weather forecast. Elizabeth, we saw a little rain today, a little bit of stopping there, but things aren't done yet.
It is not, and just beginning to see some changes. We checked in with the radar about 30 minutes ago, and 10 minutes ago, we started to see a few cells popping up in Durham County. They're tiny right now, but if you're in southern Durham County, right around town, you may be getting a little bit wet right now. That's going to swing on into Wake County. We're going to see a few isolated showers there. A bit of a line that's developing. We checked in with this earlier in the newscast, and you can see, we'll zoom in here, and you can see this is moving closer to Troy and just west of Rockingham. This is our viewing area over here where you see Carthage and Southern Pine. So that line is picking up and continuing to, to look interesting. There's no thunder and lightning with this right now. We're not expecting anything severe, but you can see these darker red colors. So some brief heavy downpours are possible with this as it all continues this afternoon. And again, you can see later on today, just a few isolated to scattered storms popping up. This version of Futurecast and the other version that we look at quite often, our short-range high-resolution models, are not really handling this very well, but we're already seeing some of these showers popping up. So I think we'll end up seeing them on and off through the afternoon. We take a look at satellite and radar, widen the view out a little bit. We have this cold front up to the north. It's a fairly weak one. It may slip a little bit farther south, kind of help to generate some of these showers and storms. But this one's a much bigger deal. This one back to the west, it did produce at least some severe thunderstorm warnings earlier today, and you can see some pretty nasty weather there in Oklahoma. This front comes through here late Wednesday into the day Thursday. Not expecting it necessarily to produce any severe weather for us, but we'll be watching out for that potential. But it is likely to bring us a better chance for rain. This is tomorrow at 6 a.m. There might be a little sprinkle in the morning, but for the most part, we would see just a small chance of an afternoon or evening thunderstorm. There's Wednesday morning, and again, it's showing a little bit of rain to start with and around lunchtime. But look back to the west here at 6 p.m. You can see sort of some showers and thunderstorms developing, but we see it becoming more intense overnight and even into Thursday morning. There's 8 a.m. and then gradually into Thursday afternoon, it weakens and starts to slide eastward as that front moves on out of here. When the front moves out, we're going to be treated to a drier air mass, meaning a nice drop in our humidity. It won't be quite as amazing as we saw last Friday, but it will feel much more comfortable. Our forecast for the rest of the day today and tomorrow's 30% chance of scattered showers or thunderstorms, and then a 40% chance late Wednesday into at least the first half of Thursday, if not beyond. How much rain total for the 4 days? Most likely an average of about a half an inch to an inch of rain. It will all depend on whether or not one of these cells moves over you slowly and dumps a whole lot of rain, or maybe you see a couple of them. With thunderstorms, they just kind of pop up, and some folks see a lot of rain, others don't. And then next time around, maybe you see some if you didn't see it last time. Tomorrow's going to be a hot one at 89. We're still warm over the weekend with highs in the mid to upper 80s, but we will see a nice drop in our humidity. Again, not quite as refreshing as it was last weekend, but it won't be as muggy as it is right now.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth. The future is now.
Hi, my name is Sophie, and I am a digital human brand ambassador for Unique.
After the break, we'll tell you about the next innovation using artificial intelligence and the key device you'll need to engage with a digital human brand ambassador. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today.
We're learning more about the people involved in a deadly chase and crash in Wake County. WRAL has learned 18-year-old Aiden Gambone was killed. It happened around 10 last night at the intersection of Lewisburg Road and Zebulon Road. Investigators say Gambone led a deputy on a chase, ran a stoplight, and crashed into another vehicle. Authorities reopened the intersection around 1:30 this morning.
One person is dead in Franklin County after a man drowned in a pond. This happened just before 9 this morning on the 8400 block of NC Highway 39 near Zebulon. Authorities tell WRAL a man was fishing in a boat and fell into the water. We're still working to learn his identity.
And jury selections is now underway in Hunter Biden's felony gun trial in Delaware. The president's son is accused of lying about using drugs to buy a handgun back in 2018. The trial is expected to dive into Hunter's personal struggles, including his well-documented battle with addiction. The Biden family's personal and political future is in the spotlight as this trial unfolds.
We told you about a massive hack involving Ticketmaster last week. Now, Live Nation confirms that data from the ticket website is up for sale on the dark web. The company launched a probe into the hack on May 20th, but the data went on sale starting May 27th. Live Nation says it has also informed regulatory authorities. The company does not believe the breach will have an impact on overall business operations. You can prevent potential hacks on your cell phone by restarting your device at least once a week. The National Security Agency says Apple and Android users should completely turn off their phones, then turn them back on to prevent hackers from breaching verification vulnerabilities known as zero-click exploits. The agency says most people may only reboot their phone for new updates, which opens up more opportunities to be hacked.
Turn it off and on again. Your PC will soon serve as a personal assistant. NVIDIA is introducing tools and plans to speed up the advancement of artificial intelligence. The company's CEO says a personal computer will become an AI unit, one that will allow digital people to assist real people in their daily lives. AI humanoids will constantly assist you in the background. The event brings together the leaders of the computer and digital industry. It's a different way to do things with AI. Facebook is making changes to appeal to younger social media users. Reels and feeds will now use new tech that learns from large data sets for recommendations. There will also be video improvements such as full screen video players and a new professional mode so the content creators can earn a little money.
Our pet of the day is from Love Mutt's Rescue. Look at this very, very sweet girl, Leslie. Leslie is all the wonderful things that a hound embodies. She's gentle, loving, and sensitive. Leslie is people and dog friendly, does really well on a leash. She's under 50 pounds and between 2 to 4 years old. Contact Love Mutts to apply if you want to adopt her.
Cute doggy. A headache for high schoolers who showed up to St. Augustine's University to take their SAT exams, only to find out no one was there. Coming up in WRAL News at 4, what we're learning about what happened and when your student will be able to retake their exams.
NBC News Daily is next on WRAL, your next local news update in 30 minutes.
Just a reminder, you can get breaking news updates anytime with the WRAL News app. Have a great day. We'll see you at 4.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.